Okay, so you've had some really good sessions with Max. You had me at the start, you had Max, you had me to finish it off. And yeah, so had a couple of chats with Max about how things had gone, and really good discussion, great questions, and he's clarified a few things, which has been good. You've got your assignment, you've got your site, you should be hopefully progressed a little bit with that. I know you've got a lot of other stuff on, so it might be sitting on the back burner, but I really encourage you to just knock it off, get it finished. Just, the purpose of that is to prove to us that you understand how to do a safe system assessment. You can generally look at a road environment and a road design, understand key things that are influencing exposure and likelihood and severity, and come up with some treatments that will improve alignment with safe system principles. You're just trying to prove to us that we're confident to say, yes, like they understand the process and the general basics of it. We can certify that they can do those basics, and then you can go out and start to do them and continue to learn and practice and gain experience. So I want to talk to you in this session a little bit about what I call sort of process guidance around safe system assessments, but more in that policy sense, like organizations, what's happening around different jurisdictions in Australia, local governments, and what are the mandated requirements, and then what are the sort of steps you go through when you're working with a client, be that a road authority or a developer or whatever, whoever else you're trying to assist with this safe system assessment. So I'm going to start by just giving you a bit of information about the benefits of safe system assessment. So you've got those in your back pocket if anybody asks you. If you are telling people, hey, I've done this safe system assessment course, I've got a certificate now, I'm a safe system assessor, and they say, well, what is that? What's the benefit of it? Why would we do that? Why would we add more processes to our already process heavy infrastructure development task? And it'll give you a few ideas there. Then we'll talk through, okay, when you are asked to get involved in a safe system assessment, what are the actual steps that you would take? Now, one thing I want to do is this bit of explanation of the difference between a safe system assessment and a road safety audit. We talked a little bit about that earlier on in the course, but I might just give a little bit of a comparison of really, I suppose, more like a traditional road safety audit. Some auditors are being more progressive, and we are moving the road safety audit industry along to try to get it actually better aligned with safe system principles and a bit closer to a safe system assessment. But I do want to talk to you about those slight differences. Don't forget to count your wallies, of course. Okay, so I had this up earlier, slide in the first module, I think, and that was showing you what the different jurisdictions' commitments are associated with safe system assessments. We're seeing with any sort of practice, it's taken a while. The Austroad Safe System Assessment document was released in 2016, and it's taken some jurisdictions quite a while to really get onto that. But now we're seeing it really mandated by a lot of jurisdictions in their strategies, in their policies, and the like. Sometimes linking it with road safety auditing and just doing a process there. But that's on there. If you have specific questions around your jurisdiction and their requirements for safe system assessments or not, please pop those into the chat or in the Q&A, or put your hand up. I am happy to talk to specific jurisdiction requirements. I'm not going to go through each one again, though. Okay. There was an independent evaluation done by, well, Blair Turner actually did it, for those who know Blair, a very excellent researcher, road safety, researcher practitioner. Anyway, the evaluation was done on 35 projects that had been subject to safe system assessments. These projects were massive, right? I mean, like huge projects. We're talking about major town bypasses. We're talking about major, new freeway bits, huge outer suburban duplication jobs. Big projects, right? And they looked at what is the existing road environment, what is the risk there, and used a crash prediction model to forecast 20 years worth of death and serious injury across all of these areas. Okay, so what they did there is they took all of that existing road network, and it was a lot of road network, and said, okay, if they don't do any upgrades, how much death and serious injury over these, all of these areas do we expect over the next 20 years? So they said, over these, it's a massive amount of area with huge traffic volumes as well, and lots going on. We expect 7,908 serious injuries and 344 fatalities over 20 years. But each of those areas had a design produced. And because these are massive projects, these are done by big, the big multinational design houses, design consultancies, big, engineering consultancies, and they've produced these designs for upgrades. The upgrade designs, they're not necessarily safety driven. I mean, that's, duplication jobs, probably traffic, bypasses has all sorts of other reasons, and, freight efficiency and all this sort of stuff like that. But with those designs, the evaluation said, okay, if they build that, what do we predict will happen in terms of death and serious injury? And it reduced death and serious injury down to 6,706 serious injuries across all of these areas and 286 fatalities over the next 20 years. Then a safe system assessment was done on those designs. And that safe system assessment came up with recommendations, just as you're doing in your assignment, and said, okay, you could do this, you could do this, and you could do this. And what the evaluation team in this one did is they looked at those and they said, okay, what are the best things that they are recommending? And let's assume those are implemented in the project. What does that bring death and serious injury down to? And you can see there, it goes down to 3,890 serious injuries, 167 fatalities over these areas. Okay. Now, then they looked and said, well, what actually happened? They got that report, right? And then they've accepted some of those recommendations, but they've said no to others, or they've done different things, or things have changed. What actually went out, to contract to be built, or some of them are built and some of them are still being built. And that goes up to 5,298 serious injuries, 227 fatalities. This is, I find this sort of fascinating for many levels, and I'll talk it through. I do want to talk this through. The first thing I want to say is that the designs coming out, this is a few years back now, but the run-of-the-mill designs that your big design houses, wherever they are, just churning out designs saying, Austroad says this, and the local DTP guidelines or the local TMR guidelines say this, right? Goes together. There it is. There's your design. That improves safety. Even though safety is not the objective of really almost any of these projects, not a safety-driven project. They will claim it's safety-related. It's usually a political claim. It's usually freight efficiency, car efficiency, public transport addition, or the like. But, they'll say it's a safety thing as well. But they are improving safety, right? Here you go. You got safety improvement. Great. This is how much safer it could be with essentially what we know is available, and a safe system assessment team has determined still is within the realms of possibility. Okay. We could get this to zero by closing all of these roads. But that's just not the purpose of having a transport network to you wouldn't move anything around. So this is the safe system assessment team is sort of trying to balance some reasonability into it, brings it down that much. So we could be doing that much better. This difference is absolutely fascinating. So this is the project team saying, thank you for your ideas. We can do some of them. We can't do these others. Now, why they can't do these others is interesting, and it's a whole lot of things. It comes down to what they believe was politically and community acceptable, whether they think it's going to conflict with other objectives of their project. It sometimes costs, it's going to cost more to do that, although most of the ones that aren't picked are not really nothing to do with cost. When you're in a project that's ticking over $1 billion, is really hardly ever cost that's going to be the deciding factor in these sorts of scenarios. But and actually, some of them going down what the safe system assessment has said has actually saved the project a significant amount of money due to less land acquisition, less tree removal, less things. But that's more often it does cost a little bit more, but in the scheme of things, it's minuscule. So that's there's really interesting things. I mean, skilling up our industry in understanding some of the treatments that can be done, showing them examples. Hey, it's been put in place. It's not, it's not the end of the world. And the world doesn't collapse when you raise an intersection or put a continuous barrier system or the like. But we keep working on that. But this one, the difference there, that difference, that is the benefit of simply going through the process of a safe system assessment. We can get that even with existing, entrenched biases or ways of operating or the like. We can improve things by simply going through the process that you're undertaking, providing those recommendations, and the project team will adjust and get safer outcomes. I think of these 35 projects, 32 of them, I think it was, had already had road safety audits undertaken on them. They've made changes associated with the audit. The safe system assessment is giving that extra value above and beyond, or it was at the time. Nobody has done, it's probably another little addition that should have been or could be added to this evaluation, is to say, what is the actual cost of those improvements? But nonetheless, they are able to be done, and they're accepted, and they're being built, and lives are being saved because of that assessment process. So that's pretty exciting. So that's one real takeaway out of this. Another one, I think it's important here. I'm going to change color on this one. Let's go to purple. What on earth is going on there? We just did a safe, like we've said, 35 projects have had safe system assessments undertaken on them and provided recommendations on the best things that could happen, and we still see all of this residual death and serious injury. If they built all of the best things. Now, to a degree, this makes me go, this evaluation is probably pretty realistic, actually. Like they've done a decent job. Because this is stuff that we do not know, either we do not know how to address, or is so far from politically, communally acceptable at this stage that we're not even recommending it in safe system assessments. And I'll like, if you dig into what on earth is this, like what are all these deaths and serious injuries going on when we've done all this like amazing road infrastructure? Well, it's motorcycles. So the motorcycles, even with barrier systems, with underrun protection and you know, great acceleration lanes and roundabout, the motorcyclists are still being killed and seriously injured. It's really sort of aberrant behavior, like hoon behavior, things that are just, you just go, our existing infrastructure and knowledge and what we can build is making it super hard for us to account for this. It's things that are very rare but exist, such as people walking on high-speed roads, like out in it's almost the middle of nowhere, broken down vehicles wandering out of their car, and these sort of things. So it's that real land use, you know, the road environment, you really would struggle there. So what I say on this is that we've got to keep innovating. We've got to keep working. We've got to be coming up with ideas. How do we address these issues and really working to bring that down? We've got to recognize that other elements of the system really have to play significant roles in this, vehicles being the big one. Like vehicles have to come into play to start to lessen this. And we may need some really hard policy decisions around things like motorcycles and how we do that, or massive leaps in innovation around those sorts of things. I flag it because there's, you know, be aware there's limitations on what we're going to expect to get out of a safe system assessment, but don't forget this incredible value that can be added just from going through the process as it currently stands. Okay. Hello, Loretha. You've popped onto my screen.
I have, and you know, I have a question for you. SSA recommendations are limited to infrastructure improvements only, or SSA have the ability to recommend non-infrastructure improvements as well?
Yeah, excellent question. In fact, prize-worthy question there. Safe system assessments can recommend anything, all right? You're not constrained to physical infrastructure and or speed limits and that. You could recommend behavioral change initiatives. You could recommend vehicle safety interventions, vehicle safety regulations, you name it. But the practical reality of what we do, the bulk of the time, is that the assessment process is on an individual length of road or intersection upgrade or bike path or those sorts of things. And when we make recommendations in safe system assessments that are so far out of the scope of what is the realm of responsibility of the receiver of this report, they sort of like, what? You know, if you are charged with doing a safe system assessment of an intersection for a local government, and your recommendations are that Australian design rules for vehicles change to mandate electronic stability, it's already mandated, auto emergency braking for all vehicles, they're going to just be like, what on earth? Like, that's so far out of their responsibility. So if, though, like the safe system assessment methodology is so versatile, though, that you could technically do a safe system assessment on a mine site, for example, and with that, where you've got a contained sort of vehicle fleet and a contained community or road user group, you could be suggesting, you would analyze their fleet. You'd say, well, one of the recommendations could be that you look at your fleet purchasing policy to mandate 5-star vehicle, 5-star safety rated vehicles only. If you notice that actually they've got utes that I've looked on ANCAP and they're only 3-star rated, right? You could absolutely make those recommendations. So you need to have a little bit of that contextual understanding of who's receiving your report, what is in their realm of ability. Now, you can drift a little bit out of that. I'm just thinking of an example where we had a safe system assessment out. This was the Western Highway out past Stall, duplication, big job. And one of the things we noticed is that there's like significant telecommunication black spots essentially out there. There's no phone reception. And you kind of go, when you're thinking about post-crash care, that's a bit of an issue. And then we thought, but that, what can the road authority do around that? And in the end, we sort of said, well, maybe they could at least, flag this with some of the telcos and say, hey, these are areas we're quite concerned with, and have a think about that. Add their voice in there. Yeah, it's a bit of a fine line. Are you asking them to do things way outside of their scope or not? Yeah, I'll leave that to you to have a think about. Awesome. Okay. So, that graph that I was just showing, that evaluation, I think is a really wonderful demonstration of the benefits of safe system assessments and why we're pushing for those to happen. We're not saying road safety audits shouldn't happen. They absolutely have a place, but realizing this safe system assessment process is available and it really injects safety into projects. It's a great way of determining how well a project aligns with safe system principles. You've seen the scoring, you sort of understand that. It's quite clear. It's a good, you get some data, some graphs. These things are quite powerful in putting down in front of directors or executive directors or, people deciding what, making those final calls. Well, now we can put these down and say, hey, that's what it's been assessed as. Great for comparing design options as well. We've often struggled in the past to have anything rather than an opinion-based comparative assessment technique for the safety benefits. Okay, don't get me wrong, a safe system assessment has a bit of opinion base to it, but it's a bit more rigid in its structure on how to create that comparative option. It also integrates beautifully into a multi-criteria analysis in the sense that you get numbers and you can feed those numbers into multi-criteria analysis. Really nice at giving us those proposed design changes. That is going to start to move us towards the elimination of death and serious injury, and acknowledging the limitations we have at this stage, but we're going to continue to work on that. Great to assist planners, designers, and project managers to move the safe system approach from theory to practice. And I'm pretty passionate about this one in the sense that the number of people and the number of organizations I see that can talk safe system so eloquently, so perfectly, and you're like, this is amazing. And then you actually look at what they're doing and you go, well, you're not actually doing any of that stuff. Gee, you talk well about it and you produce some beautiful documents and words, but when actually decisions to be made on the ground, it's all ignored. This is a great process to make sure that actually starts to filter down into practice. It's one of our many tools we need to take this philosophical approach and turn it into on-ground action. Sound basis for future planning and design of road infrastructure. It's a good tool. So yeah, these are here in your back pocket if you need to talk to people about safe system assessments. because I want you getting out there and doing lots of safe system assessments. We need local governments, state governments, territory governments, all getting safe system assessments done on their road proposals, their public transport proposals, their bike projects, their things. So a set of eyes like yours with some knowledge about safe system, and you'll continue to build that knowledge, but to be able to suggest things that we can get more savings of lives with their investment. Okay, so the process of a safe system assessment. The first thing to note is that they just work better earlier on in a project. So if we look down there in the grey, which are like, theoretical steps in a infrastructure project, developing, some sort of concept of what you're planning to do, starting to draft up plans and ideas, and getting some functional designs done, then getting into the details and really starting to get into those civil design details and the like, and then constructing it, and then cutting the ribbon and opening it to traffic, or taking away the bollards and opening it to traffic. We know really that safe system assessment works beautifully in there because there's ability to still change the fundamentals of the project at these stages. Once you're down in something like detail, the detailed design's been done, they're very unlikely to change the fundamentals of the project. Budgets have been set usually, and things are moving along, and they're just detailing it up. And I have been involved in safe system assessments at detailed design stage. They can't do most of the stuff that you're recommending. They've got large signalized intersections. They've got the full detailed design set, or like 80% done, or whatever it is. And you're questioning the intersection form in its own right, or whether we could do raised platforms. It's just like, no, like we can't change any of these fundamentals. So the road safety audits tend to just be a better process at that stage. You'd like the auditors to be questioning some of these fundamentals, but the audits just line up a little bit better in terms of some of those more nuanced, specific details, which aren't going to have major impacts on the inherent safety, but they will have some impacts on the safety, like things like sight lines to the sightlines to the signals, the specifics of different signage configurations, tapers of or flare rates of barriers, very sort of specific drainage specifics. That's all important stuff, and we should absolutely continue to be detailed, really detailed looking at that and audit. But yeah, it's not going to give us major step changes in safety. So try to get in with a safe system assessment early, and then go from there. So if you read the Victorian guidelines and the South Australian guidelines on safe system assessments, what they actually say is if you do a safe system assessment at an early stage of a project, you don't need to do the road safety audit at that same stage, because the safe system assessment is going to cover that. So and I kind of like that, because I just don't want more red tape in a project if it's not really, useful. And I think that if you at an early concept stage, if you do a safe system assessment and then you do a road safety audit, I think you're just doubling up on sort of the checks that you will do in a lot of cases. And the safe system assessment really does the bulk of what we want to do. It presented in a particular way that is really powerful. Loretta, I saw you pop up there and then you disappeared.
I did. There was just a clarification on, qualification or a membership, registration for an SSA, like an RSA, where you registered for an RSA. So
Yeah. Okay, I'll show a little bit about that in like 5 slides time, where I talk to you about some of the different registers and things that have emerged, like road safety audit registers and the like, and the things required to be part of that. So I will cover that in a bit more detail. And Brett's popped up one of the links that I will show as well, to the pre-qualification register for safe system assessors by the South Australian government. Victorian government has a similar one as well, but we'll get to that. This doesn't come up as much anymore because safe system assessments are starting to be entrenched in practice in Australia. But for a long time, and it does still continue, people would say, why would I do a safe system assessment? I'm doing a road safety audit. That's going to cover it. And you say, well, yes and no. I mean, a road safety audit is a great tool. It injects safety into a project. All right. But safe system assessments have some other advantages. And I've popped this sort of comparison little sheet. I have a more elaborate comparison sheet, and I've also included IRAP in the comparison sheet, the International Road Assessment Program. Maybe Loretta, we can dig that out. It's on our resource page on our website if you want, but we'll pop that into the learning management system. But the likelihood of crashes is pretty well looked at in both audits and safe system assessments. The severity of crash is sometimes looked at in road safety audits. Sometimes it is ignored. And the classic is that large signalized intersection. And I see this audits, I still see it, where they're looking at an 80 kilometre per hour road crossing another 80 kilometre per hour road, and there's a design for new traffic signals. And nowhere in that audit is it mentioning the result of red light running. It's all focused on stopping the crashes happening. Really important stuff. Yeah, as I talked about, sightline signals, mast arms, the clarity of lanes lining up. These sort of super important. But the assumption that people will still make mistakes is ignored in some of these audits. So you can't ignore that in a safe system assessment just by the framework setup. Issues that impact the exposure as a discrete element, they're not considered in audits. They are essentially packed in with the likelihood. Like they're not their distinct element. They both provide recommendations to improve road safety outcomes, unless you're in New South Wales, where road safety audits do not provide recommendations. That's not part of what you do as an auditor in New South Wales, although in practice, you usually send them a little other memo and just tell them some ideas. But yeah, I mean, they're both doing that. They both consider all road users. That's pretty clear in both auditing and safe system assessment. You want to consider all road users. The safe system assessment sort of is focused on that fatal serious injury, whereas the audit tends to be more able to go to other injury, minor property damage, and be a bit more overt in how that is sort of something there. You have the ability in this safe system assessment to do more analysis of the vehicles, the people, the maintenance, the post-crash care, and yeah, sometimes audits sort of drift into those spaces, but it's just a bit easier and clearer under a safe system assessment. Now, road safety auditors, and I teach a road safety audit course as well, we talk about, it's not the job of the auditor to redesign the project and change their fundamental, like suggest changes to their fundamentals. You're there to point out the specifics of that, and like just again, safe system assessments are better suited to be questioning the fundamentals and suggesting full redesigns. And I talked about this in module 1, or maybe it was module, no, I think it was module 1. Encourages innovation. Road safety audits, unfortunately, can hamper innovation just due to what they produce and how they produce it. They shouldn't, but they sometimes do. Safe system assessments are better at facilitating innovation that saves lives. Safe system assessments are pretty versatile too. They can be used at program levels, whole community levels. It's a big risk assessment sort of methodology. Some of these I'm noting should be better if people start to follow the Austroads Guide to Road Safety Part 6, which is road safety audit. We should get better audits that have better alignment with safe system principles, are better focused on some of these things, but we still have that slight difference. Okay. Yeah, I had comments come in there. I mean, almost every jurisdiction in the world requires road safety audits to provide recommendations. New South Wales is the exception to that rule. Like, they don't want recommendations. So yes, recommendations are part of road safety audits. Okay, so the way a safe system assessment rolls out generally is that somebody first of all decides, yeah, safe system assessment should be done. That's either a policy decision, they're following the policy, or somebody's got a reason why they say, yep, safe system assessment. Then there's a decision to be made that they will need to decide, do we do a full safe system assessment or a rapid or light safe system assessment? I will explain the difference between these two later. They're not like hugely different. There's just a few steps and a few efficiencies you get with a rapid as opposed to a full. Then they go, right, we're going to need to get a team together to do this. And they go and find a consultancy, or they get a team of people that they know have the skills to do a safe system assessment. And then they sort of all get together, or they at least exchange information and make sure that everybody understands the context of the project, hand over all the designs and all the different planning reports and studies and collecting all of that information. Then the assessment team goes away with all of that, and they go out and they look at the site and they understand what the existing conditions are like, what the design is going to alter, how it's going to tie into different areas. They go and they fill out their safe system assessment matrix, which you're getting pretty good at now. They think through qualitative questions, and Max would have taken you through those, general broad questions. They come up with ideas to improve alignment with safe system principles. They write it up into a report format. You've been given a template report. You're welcome to, rebrand that in your own company branding, or your government branding, or whatever you want. But you're on that sort of consistent reporting format and way that reports are produced. And they hand that over, and that's got recommendations. And the receiver of that report decides which of those things can be done and which won't be done, and then importantly actually makes those changes to the design and ensures that that's going to happen, so whatever's built is safer. That's the general process, and people are generally pretty comfortable with this because it aligns kind of the same as the road safety audit process in general. And that was somewhat intentional in the sense of saying, well, we can add this process in, and it could replace the road safety audit process at different stages of the project. or be done alongside it. Okay, the question came in around the register of safe system assessors. So the Victorian government has one on the VicRoads website, and you will be eligible to apply to be part of this after you successfully complete this course. The South Australian government has one as well, which Brett's put a link in there. And the way it works with the Victorian one is essentially you complete this course or an equivalent course, approved course. Then you go out and you do a safe system assessment. Part of a team, you lead it, you do a full one, a real one, not the mock one we've given you as part of the assignment, because we need you to go through the full process with a client, essentially. And then you package that up and you send it into VicRoads. They review it. If they go, yep, this person knows what they're doing, they put you on the list. If not, they provide you some feedback and you can readjust it and have another go at it. So the Victorian one's just a list of like this. It's a PDF, as the South Australian one is as well. For South Australia, it's a bit easier. You just show them the certificate from this course, a successful completion certificate, and you get on the list. They've said, because we test you and put you through those quizzes and mark your assignment, that if you get a successful completion, you have the base level understanding of how to do that. So that one is on the DIT website. Question in there, is there one for New South Wales? No, there's not one for New South Wales or Queensland or any other jurisdiction, actually. The process for Queensland, New South Wales is generally to just have a certificate of successful completion of a safe system assessment course is basically it. I mean, technically, you could probably argue that you don't need that, but I think that's a bit of a risk for a client who's engaging a safe system assessment team who's have not been trained on how to do the assessment technique. But Loretta.
Thank you. Just a great question that's come through from Rachel. Is it best to have independence for the SSA and RSA teams on a project?
So RSA teams, absolutely, must be independent, completely independent from the design. And I wrote an article on LinkedIn a couple of weeks ago about, independence from other influences, and it sparked a little bit of healthy discussion from the industry around exactly what that means. And but yeah, road safety audits, just absolute independence. Safe system assessments, the guidelines in South Australia and Victoria at least talk about the lead of the safe system assessment team must be independent. Now, that, in the nature of the way it's written and you read it, means that that you could have the designer as part of the safe system assessment team. You wouldn't have them leading the safe system assessment. But the practice is that mostly people run it exactly the same as road safety audits, in the sense that they get, this is for a decent sized project, they get an external safe system assessment undertaken by an external party. One of the reasons why there's a little bit more relaxed, I suppose, with safe system assessments is around trying to encourage the process and practice within local governments and state governments to just be getting them done. And it's sometimes a little bit hard to get that full independence. And they wanted to be a little bit more flexible with that as well. I think there were some other questions in there.
Yeah, there are. But just following on from that one, So can you have the same people doing the SSA and RSA in the same team?
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely.
thank
Yeah,
you.
that works quite well often. They're in the life of a project, so early in design, a safe system assessment team, and then it happens that that team comes back and does the road safety audit. That works perfectly well. It also can work well though, jumping around. You get a safe system assessment team, they do that. The road safety audit team later down the track in the design, and they might look at the safe system assessment, get some thoughts on that.
Thank you. Will sort of each, state, so will they assess SSAs from other states, or do they prefer one being done in their own area?
No, they're happy with other states. So yeah, if you want to get on the Victorian Register and you've only done a safe system assessment in Queensland, that's fine. They will accept that and review that. So another question in there: do you go to the site for a greenfields safe system assessment? Well, greenfield safe system assessments are a tricky, fun little thing to get your head around because nothing exists and you can't do an existing conditions assessment to set a benchmark for change. So what you actually end up doing is simply just assess the design. You don't do a reference benchmark. And all it can really do is point you at the areas of higher risk compared to other areas. You can't even get a relative understanding of how that performs. I mean, it is useful, but yeah. So then do you go to the site? Well, it's a bit like if it's like a town, I was going to say a town bypass. The bulk of it is non-existent as paddocks at the moment, but it will tie in to existing road. You'd have a scratch of your head about how that ties in and the like. So that might be some value in going to site. But you'll see shortly, I'll show you the difference between a full safe system or rapid safe system assessment. You can not go to the site for some under certain circumstances. And that's probably an example where you might not add a huge amount of value going to site. Again, road safety audits are far stricter on some of this, and it's far clearer in the big Australia's Guide to Road Safety Part 6. And, really got to get out on site. Safe system assessors should go to site, and the bulk of them you do go to site, but it's a bit more, some of them you may not. Keep your questions coming in. This is really good. I want to get that clarity. Also, feel free to raise your hand if you want to just talk it through. I'll give you a short break soon, and we'll be able to give you some time back as well, hopefully. So Victorian government and South Australian government's got the same framework, which essentially says any project with capital works value under $2 million should have a rapid safe system assessment if it's determined that an assessment is required. 2 million to 5 million should have a full safe system assessment, and a rapid could happen if it's determined as low risk. And if it's above $5 million, it has to have a full safe system assessment. You can only do a rapid safe system assessment if it's a sort of repeat assessment or the like. So what is this rapid safe system assessment I talk about? Well, probably easiest I just show you the scope of both of these things. A full safe system assessment, you can see there, and a rapid. Now, if I run through the full, I'll cross them out if they're not required, not necessarily required in the rapid. So commencement meeting, you're going to need to do some exchange of information. It probably doesn't need to be too formalized in a rapid. So I can sort of maybe half cross that out. You're going to need to get the background information and context, right? Having a sit down workshop, roll out the plot and the plan and everything. Yeah, that can happen. It is even optional in your full, but it really doesn't tend to happen in the rapid one. Site inspection, again, this one is one of the ones that's said in a rapid, you may not need that. You've got to look at the existing conditions of the site for both of them. Now, for the Rapid, if you haven't gone to site, you kind of might be doing that via photos or Street View or these sorts of things. Never as good as being out on site, but if we're just, moving it through for a lower risk site or something like that, okay, it might be appropriate. You look at the existing conditions, you do your matrix. You then look at the design and you do the matrix. You need to consider the other elements of the SAFE system, those qualitative questions under a full SAFE system assessment. You don't do that as part of a rapid. So that's one that goes. You don't sort of delve through all of those aspects around vehicles and people and post-crash care. It's really a honed-in infrastructure design specific. You still make recommendations about things that would improve alignment with SAFE system principles. You do a shorter report for a rapid, not a huge amount shorter. Then, somebody needs to make changes. That still needs to happen. And you may decide to get it rescored if you want, and then things are changed accordingly. That all happens. So you can see it's not this amazingly different scope of works for a full or a rapid. I always say a rapid's about 70% of the work, 75% of the work compared to a full. Okay. Before, I think I'll show these road environments after we have our stretch break. And it's just a few road environments to, again, just talk SAFE system alignment. What's the best we know of at this stage? So you can be going out and making good recommendations as a SAFE system assessor. Sorry. Any questions, Loretta, before I give everybody that stretch break?
Yes, please. So for a bypass where the existing route is still used once the bypass opens, say by local trips, is the existing base case the existing route? And for the design options, you'd still include the existing route as it will still be used.
Yeah, it's a very good question. And so the answer is yes. If you've got a town, bypass is a great example. So if you've got currently a road runs through a town, that's your base case. Then you go to a bypass, right? And you could, what you'll do is you'll look at the bypass route and you will create a SAFE system score matrix off that as compared to the existing route, but you need to account for, what existing things will happen on that route. I can send an example of sort of how that would work, but one of the real advantages of a SAFE system assessment under those scenarios is it really shows you this is a wonderful opportunity to do some significant works on that existing route. You've just given all of the traffic that's claiming, I need to go through fast because it's really holding me up, all the freight and everything like that. They've got their route. So you've got this wonderful opportunity at that time. And the SAFE system assessment kind of highlights that existing routes still remains, depending on the volume that's going to be there, as a high risk place. So good question. I think we've got a fact sheet on that, particularly in our SAFE system scoring fact sheets. All right, let's take 5 minutes. Go fill your coffee up, have a stretch, and we'll finish everything off and give you some time to get stuck into your assignment. Okay, let's just jump back into it. As I said, final little sort of wrap up piece here, and final opportunity to ask questions before Loretta shows you how to finish off. I just wanted to run through a series of road environments and just talk briefly about the best alignment with SAFE system principles that we know of at this stage for each, and some of the factors to consider. Why do I want to do this? Well, I want to do this because you're going to shortly get a certificate that says you successfully completed a safe system assessment course, assuming you do your assignment and it's marked and you pass and all of that, which I'm sure will happen. And you've done a mock safe system assessment on one road environment, but the certificate doesn't say that. Doesn't say, oh, you're a safe system assessor for local road intersections or for motorways or for whatever it is. It's generic. So we've been doing it throughout the whole course, looking at lots of different road environments, different contexts and the like, but I just want to jump through each of these and have a little bit of a chat about it. I'll do it fairly quickly. I may get some interaction out of you for one or two of them, but we'll keep ticking along. We'll jump into it. So residential street environments, really under that movement and place context, which Max talked to you about, and thinking, what are our priorities for these sorts of road? It's certainly not getting traffic through it quickly, vehicle traffic through it quickly. So anything we can do to lower speeds down is going to be better aligned with safe system principles. And in fact, blocking off a lot of the ability to use this as a through route is highly aligned with safe system principles, reduces our exposure to crashes because there'll be less vehicles through there, and lowering speeds and the like through speed limits, local area traffic management. Now, some people sort of talk then about removing car parks to remove likelihood of crashes. I always caution you slightly on that. Yes, okay, we've opened up sight lines and things like that, but the cars parked narrow the road down and really keep people a bit slower. If you're going to do that, you kind of want to replace it with things that would keep that narrow nature or local area traffic management features to keep that speed down. I'll give a prize if anybody can tell me where this is. And this was quite a while back when I took this photo. I was out there doing a safety investigation. It is, it's Bondi Junction. Well done. I'll let Loretta work out who that was and whether she's going to be nice and give a prize for just saying Bondi. It is a really fascinating bit of road network in the sense of it is such a place. If you look at it in a movement of place context, it's such a place, but there's still this retention of very sort of old movement corridor for vehicles through some of the streets. It's got better since this photo, but really these sorts of areas, so place driven that you can look at closing roads, creating shared spaces, and really you do want to vitalize these for pedestrians and the like, make them real places for people. And so vehicles are really the absolute, you're really not thinking about trying to prioritize movement of vehicles through these areas at any speed whatsoever. This one's a little bit complicated because the buses have to get in and out of here, but still, thinking about slowing vehicles. The temptation people have, and it used to be here, is to sort of fence off these areas, and I just caution on that, and fence off these and create one, pedestrian crossing point down there. I caution on this sort of stuff because pedestrians will end up just walking on the road, being trapped in the wrong areas, stepping over it. Pedestrians eye line, they're not going to walk all the way around and out to get to a crossing point. Maybe I'll get some interaction. It actually says Bondi Junction, does it? Oh yeah, it does there too. There you go. Okay, let's have a look at this one. Also New South Wales. Maybe you can give me some ideas here. We have these mixed-use arterials. What sort of things do we think would give us really high alignment with safe system principles on these sorts of mixed use arterials where they set in that they, there's a traffic corridor, it's pedestrian priority area, cyclist route, bus route, and the like. Any ideas? Okay, a couple of things coming in. Yeah, good. Like, again, the correlation of speed to impact forces for the pedestrians and cyclists and vulnerable road users. So that really has to be our point of saying, okay, we've got to get speeds down here to that 30 range. 30, maybe we can start to corral pedestrians to those crossing points and have them very assured of low speeds through raised crossing points and the like. But really, the getting speed of vehicles down through these areas is not a significant impact on travel time through these areas. The signals and the congestion is far, like, that's what causes delays. People want to blame a speed limit or things that make them go a bit slow, but it's really not the thing that's influencing it. So yeah, there's great opportunities to take these roads that should be done slow, but they are these straight, wide roads. And of course, some people have that desire to drive this super fast. It might be late at night or whenever it is, but they can. There's really nothing to dampen their speed. So raising some of these crossing points is going to have multiple advantages. It's going to slow vehicles at those conflict points. It's going to mean that it can't be used as a drag strip, a fast running area. And then you can do some more clever things around signal phasing and signal timing, things like the dwell on red or rest on red scenarios where on the Friday night and the Saturday night into the wee hours of the morning, you do get your signals to dwell on red, to stay. That's their default position, red for traffic, to slow people, make it not a route you really can go through fast, very slow. Pedestrians have the priority, and only when the vehicles trigger loops, it goes green for a bit and then green for a little bit and then goes back to red as the default. It's prioritizing sort of pedestrians and all those intoxicated pedestrians and everything that'll be out there at those times. So those sort of things can work quite well. People get sort of concerned, oh, this is big bus route and all of that. We can't do raised things. You can, you absolutely can. There's definitely ways, designs of raised crossings, raised intersections, which are perfectly fine for buses. But you can then think about the way you may reconfigure it if you're really not comfortable, whether it's, some sort of separators, raised bits there, not raised bits there. I mean, yes, there's a lot of design work and thinking around that, but don't throw out the idea of physical features to slow vehicles just because it's a bus route or a heavy vehicle route. There's plenty of ways we can do that. The low volume rural roads is going to be a very big challenge going forward because it is not a good investment to spend the infrastructure money required to be able to safely navigate these routes at high speed. Because you would need continuous barrier systems. You would need major intersection treatments. And there's not the volume of vehicles using these roads. So what in theory we go to is to bring the speed limits down and enforce those using different techniques on these roads down to levels that are more tolerable for crash types like head-on crashes, so 70 kilometers an hour or the like. The challenge we're going to have on that is that so far from public expectations on some of these roads at this stage. That's a long-term sort of change management thing that would be required to understand how that change could happen. You can do it in theory because it's not a major strategic corridor. It doesn't have major impacts on many people. And so from a societal perspective, it's the right thing to do. In the time before we can start to convince some of the communities and things that this is actually something that could be acceptable, there's a lot of stuff that is done just reducing the likelihood of crashes, which is stuff that's been happening for a long time. Ceiling shoulders, enhanced delineation, audio tactile centerline, edge line, warning signs and these sorts of things. On our higher volume roads, though, this is where the infrastructure spend goes. Doesn't look higher volume here. It is a much higher volume road, but really center barrier systems, outer barrier systems, providing that full containment. So high speeds, your 100 kilometer per hour and 110 can still happen, and that vehicles can make mistakes, or drivers can make mistakes, and they are protected. Okay, it's expensive, but you are targeting this at your highest volume roads. And then you sort of link that, if you've got that central barrier system, you can put a roundabout down there, because that's a really nice setup. If you've got access points and things, they can use the roundabout as their U-turn facility. They come down, they U-turn to go back the other way. You don't need to put lots of brakes in your barrier, and you can strategically lay out a route based on roundabout, central median. And that's a kind of fun exercise to do. It's sort of forecast out a 30-year plan for a road, higher volume road, and say, okay, these are the big intersections we're going to roundabout out, and then we're going to put central barrier systems here and here, and then they'll use that. And then you can segment off, deciding how you roll that out in phases. It's sort of what we call a safe system scope ladder, where you'd say over time, you're thinking about what's the end state of this road that we want, and how do we step by step get there with this blueprint of the end road environment we want. Loretta.
What about the use of musical roads to break the monotony of long drive and increase driver attention?
Yeah, so the Japanese were the first to sort of do audio tactile edge line of different height and different spacing to create music, essentially, with that audio response into the vehicle. And it's kind of fun. And yeah, I just love the fact that somebody's worked that out. And if you're driving the right speed and you go over it, it plays your little song. Fantastic. Love it. In terms of fatigue management, we have trialed so many things to keep drivers awake. And the reality of fatigue is that you wake them up for a very, very short period of time, like 30 seconds with something like that. So it's just like fatigue. The only thing that cures fatigue is sleep. Maybe some illicit drugs, which we don't condone for other reasons, but you really struggle using physical infrastructure to wake drivers up. And we've trialed lots and lots of surface changes, tactile responses, rumble strips at, positions. We've tried all of the different, trivia signs, with answers 10 kilometers down the road and trying to generate thinking. We've tried colored, different colored guideposts, different colored treatments and signage setups and these sorts of things. We've tried interactive, active warning sign, active signs to try to, identify these things. And you really, where we can get to with the technology is to say we can, like the vehicles and even radars and things like that can say, yep, that driver's fatigued, but then we've got to get them off the road. That's where we're at. You can't sort of say, okay, they're fatigued, now let's keep them awake for a long period of time. We're using road infrastructure, it just doesn't work. Good though, good idea. But yeah, the Vuk's comment there, ATLM, excellent fatigue. Absolutely. So what that is doing is yes, they've fallen asleep basically, and they've drifted off the road, and we wake them up just before something happens. We need them at that point to realize and to sort of take that break, because they will start to fall asleep. Yeah, and then our in-vehicle treatments and things like that. That's right. I mean, we're trying to get more and more of like the drivers not actually doing the driving tasks. Side road activated speeds. So yes, REORs or SRASs or the like, where your main road speed limit is dropped when side road vehicles come in, is an excellent one. How do pedestrians access the bus stop on the right-hand side of the road? It's a great question. There's a side roady bit back there you can't quite see. But these high volumes out of suburban arterials or sort of your major traffic routes, really those decisions have to be made. And you go, if this is this is about moving vehicles through there as fast as we reasonably can. Okay. You don't mix vulnerable road users with these 70 or 80 kilometre per hour traffic. That has its own separated, dedicated facility. We have to manage the energy at these sorts of major conflict points. We look to possibly close off areas like this if we can. And then you're right, like bus stop, they're going to have to either when they arrive or they're getting, when they're dropped off or when they're getting to the bus, they're going to want to be going across here. So we've got to provide those separated facilities or slowed facilities. So lots of sort of stuff there to try and lessen, likelihood of crash, but severity of crash, and thinking genuinely about severity. So often in these higher volume outer suburban arterials, people just throw away the idea of severity and they just go, it's a new road. It's got great surface. It's got great lines. It's got great signs. We've got mast arms on the signals. And no, we need to say, crashes are still going to happen. How do we make them not severe? Motorways, freeways, they're very safe system aligned. They really do have great safe system inherent design characteristics. Vehicles not able to crash head on. Generally continuous barrier systems. So when vehicles leave the road, they hit a barrier rather than a tree, a power pole, a culvert or the like. They don't have at-grade intersections. So we've got that delta V, the change in speed if crashes happen. So really do perform well. Where we understand the challenges and with safe system here are with broken down vehicles and pedestrians getting out, or vehicles stopping late at night, taxis often, and pedestrians getting out and doing all sorts of stuff. They're usually intoxicated and you see some pretty high rates of pedestrian trauma on motorways, and it's surprising considering that they are areas pedestrians are not allowed and fenced off from, but it is around that getting out of vehicles. So that's one. And then as flow breakdown starts to occur, so when these are operating like they are in this picture, essentially free flow, extremely low crash rates. When they are absolutely congested, like, it basically gridlock, the crash rate is high, the crash severity is nothing because there's not enough speed. So your fatal serious injury crash rates are non-existent. It is when we see flow breakdown starting to occur. So it's congesting and we get these rear end crashes and people at speed. So essentially managed motorways is our safe system next step on these, which is essentially to have gantries that can manage speed proactively just before flow breakdown, can block off lanes, can detect incidents early up and lower speeds to manage that, have on-ramp ramp metering signals and the like to try to manage all of these incidents. And I think finally our major rural highways, again, a bit like some of those other ones. I mean, these large medians are no longer needed unless you plan to add lanes into that in the future. You can just simply narrow that down, provide one central barrier system with a nice sort of 3 or 4 meter offset between each lane. That's going to be a really wonderfully safe system aligned outcome. If not, you're doing a run of barrier down each side, ideally, run of barrier on the outside. This is the Hume Freeway. I did a business case for this one, $101 million basically of barrier system, just roll it out. And that was, successfully done. It's pretty much full containment from the M80 out to the New South Wales border now. There are patches which are a little bit harder, but that's what you got to do to create these high speed road environments, and intersections, either grade separated or I would love to say roundabouts as well to slow those speeds down. The challenge on that is often these are your major, national freight corridors and these sorts of things, and they get a bit narky about slowing them down too much with roundabouts. So grade separation, obviously, but there is the ability to operate some at-grade intersections at high speed, and it's really, if you've got a road like this and it's got an intersection like that, you've got a median in the middle. The way you can sort of operate something like this at higher speed is close that off. You definitely can't have them crossing right angle 110 kilometer per hour roads, and you provide like an acceleration lane. So you get them up so the delta V, the change in speed is equivalent. So full length acceleration lanes. Then you need enough space for them to get over. So you need some distance there. And then you provide that full acceleration lane back. And then again, the delta V is appropriate. And then they can either make their left turn or straight. And that's how you theoretically can operate these in the without having to do grade separation or roundabout as a very well-aligned safe system treatment. The sort of interim one that is used a lot are those side road activated speeds. So when a vehicle's coming up here, either radar or loops trigger a speed limit reduction on this road. So for vehicles coming through here and vehicles coming through here. And they're proving pretty successful as well. And I think seeing some good low-cost trials out there. Brett, who's on this one, has been working, getting some nice low-cost ones of those. We've done some lots in Victoria, probably a bit more expensive. And we want to, sort of start really deploying that sort of stuff. Okay, I think that's probably about where I wanted to get to, timing this beautifully. I'm just going to very briefly, I'm not going to do this extra content at this stage. I'm going to, you're probably still seeing my screen. If I can find my, here we go. I just briefly wanted to show you like what an output of a safe system assessment on a, pretty big size job kind of, so actually it's not, a reasonable safe system assessment kind of looks like. You can see existing conditions or signalizing to give the numbers there, and you can see an overarching graph there showing the different benefits. A bit of a summary there. Sort of some of the proposed treatments that could be done, and just flicking through it here a little bit more. There's some background info. You can get all this out of the standard safe system assessment template, which you're using, listing the team and the site visits and a bit of the site background and the like. And I want to get you down here to the matrices. Oh, so some of the prompt questions, so gaining context, what do we know about the area, the background, a bit more about what the safe system assessment process is. But you can see here then that there's the existing conditions matrix, and you can see there's a reasonable amount of detail in that, analyzing each of those, not so much in the exposure because that's just a volume-based thing, but the likelihood, you can see there's a few dot points, a few things that have been noticed out there, a few things that increase your likelihood, a few things that decrease the likelihood. You can see that there's a decrease the likelihood. And then severity, a few things that increase the severity, a few things that decrease the severity, some scores. And then for the actual project here, you can see they've taken that and then they've added bits, cross bits out. These things don't exist anymore, or these ones are new now. And you get these new scores, which are sort of clearly put out there. So that's the kind of thing you'd be expecting. Then you've got the graphs, a little bit of commentary, some of the general safe system questions and ideas and thoughts that have popped in out of that. This is a full safe system assessment, obviously. And then recommendations. And you can see the recommendations there as primary recommendations or supporting. So, a bit of, it's a bit more than just a quick check and scrap a few notes in the matrix. A bit of other information in there. So I just thought I'd show you that, just to make you aware that when you're doing those full safe system assessment, there's a bit to it. Okay. That's probably about where I've wanted to get to. I'll just see if Loretta's got questions before Loretta shows you how to finish the course.
We do, yep. So just come through. So what are your thoughts on innovative intersection types such as continuous flow intersections and diverging diamond interchanges? In jurisdictions outside of Victoria, are there any issues with only completing a rapid SSA for a project over 5 mil, if that is all the client or PM agrees to say to use as an input into an MCA?
Yeah, okay. So continuous flow intersections, diverging diamond intersections and the like. They are just intersection forms. We've got lots and lots of intersection forms out there, interchange forms, lots of different ways that we can do it. They're driven often by vehicle flow, trying to increase vehicle flow and the like. You can safer system assess these absolutely as you normally would, and you need to get into the analysis of each of those and understand what are the conflict points, what are the angles, what are the speeds, what are the predictions. Sometimes, occasionally, you're upping the likelihood due to confusion, and you can try to lessen the likelihood with better signage, pre-advanced warning, line marking, the lane configurations better, and these sorts of things. But you don't want to ignore the severity impacts of some of those. So yeah, they have been they're always interesting to look at. There's lots of other intersection forms. And then that last question on outside Victoria, there's no real rules on that. Like, it's whatever your essentially client is asking for. And sure, like if if they just want a rapid one to input some numbers into a multi-criteria assessment and it's a rapid, that's, that is what it is. That's what they've decided. So yeah, it's not like Austroads has mandated anything. Well, they can't really mandate anything over jurisdictions anyway, but they haven't specified anything like that. It's just jurisdiction by jurisdiction policy, and some jurisdictions have no specifics around that.
Thank you. All right, well, I'll kick on to show you the end of the course. So as you know, it's module 5. So I know a few people have already submitted their module 4 assignments and their mock assessment. So well done, thank you. Still a little bit of time, of course, to submit that, and then our graders will get onto it after the final date. But for today, module 5, the comparison report, as I provided the link earlier, but Ken did refer to the IRAP report there, so that's also in the LMS. There's just a quiz today, so clicking on the quiz and completing the questions for that one. But in order to sort of wrap the course up, so once you've submitted all your assignments, completed all your quizzes with the 80% mark, you will then have access to your certificate, but you do need to fill in a course feedback, please. We do like all feedback, so please let us know what you think of the course and everything in that feedback form. Then you'll have access to your certificate. One last thing that I would like to share, and you might want to share within your network, is this achievement, so that once you've completed everything, you can share on LinkedIn or whatever platform you'd like to share that you have completed the course. So if you click in there, we just give you a few words. So if you click here, you can access a badge like this that you can actually download and share it to your network, whatever social media platform you would like, and that'll take you to here, and then you can find the course, which is Safe System Assessment, and we've made it easy for you, and you can simply, if you want to share it on LinkedIn, click on the icon, and there's some words here that you can share on that post that you do. Don't forget to tag us, of course, that you've completed the course with Safe System Solutions. But we just thought it's a good thing, to show everyone that you've completed this course and how important it is, and yeah, obviously promote it too. Ken, did you want to add anything? Oh, actually, before you go on, once you've completed everything as well, I know Ken's given out a lot of prizes. All of my stuffed toys are going to be cleaned out. But yeah, once you've completed everything successfully, you've got your certificate, then I will say, if you did win prizes, I'll send those out through the post. But that is it from me now. Thank you.
Okay. A couple of questions that have come in. I just want to finish off clarifying those, and then I'll talk a little bit about some of those final things. So one's around the volume you would use for it to get to exposure. So yes, for intersections, you combine the two. So if you've got a 2000 AADT road crossing a 5000 AADT road, your intersection AADT is taken at 7,000, which then gives you a score of 3. For the runoff road, head-on and the like, you actually are doing it for the major road, really. So if you wanted to assess the side roads, the lesser road for runoff road head-on risk, you would kind of do those as their own safe system assessment in their matrices in their own right. You don't tend to, you're doing it on that bulk route, and it's just the intersection that has that increased volume. So I'm just going to actually, Lorraine, I'm not sure if we've gone through the safe system assessment scoring fact sheets that we've produced.
We would have touched on it, the ones that are in the LMS, the fact sheets.
We've got them in the LMS.
Under resources, yep.
Cool. Okay. So there's a fact sheet on a few things. One is how do you do a safe system assessment on a longer route? Like, it's got 6 different intersections and it's, like, what do you do? It explains that, sort of how to break it up. We've got one there on intersection crash. How to work out your intersection score. You're right. Brett's made a good point in there. The Austroads guidance is light on in a number of things. Cool. What do you got? Yes, the fact sheets are in there, so they talk about those scoring. The Austroads is light on, and it's that was a document done basically before anybody had done any safe system assessments. So when you're actually done, and we've done, there's been thousands of them now done across Australia and New Zealand, and so people have learned some of the things that in the Austroads guide don't actually practically make sense or work, and exactly how some of these play out. So we did those extra fact sheets to help provide a bit of that guidance as an interim. We're hoping Austroads at some point will do an updated safe system assessment framework. The number of people in a safe system assessment team, there is no mandates on that. You'd think that you'd at least want 2, but technically you could probably do it with 1, again, in a rapid or a low risk job. And there's no specific requirements on their background or anything like that. It's about having completed the safe system assessment course. It's a little bit going to be client, hiring people or engaging people they know have some of the skills that they really are interested in. If you have a location where pedestrian exposure is very low, rural highway or the like, would you allocate a high likelihood score, i.e. no facilities for pedestrians, so a crash is highly likely if there's pedestrian present, or do you account for the fact that the road function does not support them being there and assign a low likelihood score? No, you have accounted for exposure in the exposure, so you would likely have a high likelihood score. And you'll see it will play out through the the multiplication. So if you're putting a 1 or a 0 in your exposure, it's going to multiply through at a very low end risk. And that's kind of the part of the beauty of it. But yeah, like for often these rural environments, you've got like a 0.44 for pedestrians, or a 0.544 for pedestrians, or maybe a 1.44 for pedestrians, right? Because like even pedestrians there, it's high speed, and you might, likelihood may actually have come down a little bit if it's on these big straight open roads and it's quite clear. They've got great sight distance, they've got great vision, and the like. And to a degree, traffic volume plays into a likelihood in that scenario. I mean, volume you're going to do as traffic volume in your own, but if it's not like frequent vehicles, then they've got lots of gaps and they can see, and the likelihood of crash is lower. So it's more, some of these really rural road environments, it might be like a 1, 2, 4. Like it's going to be 4 if they get struck, and it's a highly severe outcome. So the intersection is the combined AADT. The others are just the main road AADT. If assessing exposure to head-on crashes at a roundabout, would this be low? Very unlikely for a motorist to travel the wrong way. This is at a roundabout where the AADT is very high. Well, yeah, I mean, the reality is I would probably put exposure just as the AADT, right? the likelihood is really where you're going to be able to leverage off the advantage there of it all being very clear which way to go around it. It's a significant distance to get to the other carriageway to have a head-on crash. The chance of all this happening is minuscule. Yeah, okay, there's lots of vehicles going through there, but minuscule chance of it. And head-on, well, roundabouts head-on, usually if they manage to get around to that, they're still going well below, most of the time, below 70 kilometers an hour, which is your threshold speed. So you're in lower severity territory anyway. What about roads to travel through national parks? Weekend volumes are high because of cyclists and vehicles. Weekdays are very low. Yeah, okay. We may have a fact sheet on what I think we call seasonal traffic. And that would be the same. Anytime you've got an area that just gets this tidal or seasonal traffic, if it's an area that's got a festival every Sunday or something like that, like a market or something every Sunday, or it's a coastal town that is like absolutely dead during winter but just goes crazy during summer, or in these national park scenarios or whatever like that, you simply do assessments at those different times. So you'll do a matrix for it during summer and winter. And the reasoning for that is that you sometimes might have recommendations that sit around seasonal speed zones, or installing boom gates so the road gets closed on Sundays, or whatever it is like that. It gives you that ability to not average out an important risk so it doesn't appear in there, but also not cloud some of these areas that are inherently pretty safe because of particular one-off events and times, or not one-off, but like periodic one-off style events. Yeah. And a bit of a comment in there from Brett, which I think is you need to make a bit of judgment on it. Occasionally you won't do its own matrix and you just talk about it in a bit of qualitative commentary. Loretta, I think that's probably time to finish off. I want to remind everyone that as they're going through this safe system assessment assignment, they have the opportunity to get one-on-one coaching with experienced safe system assessors, help them through, clarify anything. You can organize a Zoom or a Teams call with them and have a chat about it. They're more than happy to do it. That'd be very helpful. You get 3 attempts at it. So if you do submit it and you don't do so well, you'll get feedback and then you'll be able to adjust it and resubmit it. If any other questions come up, we've had a good little discussion there. You've got my contact details. Please reach out and I'm happy to answer those, or contact through the training team and they will be able to give it to myself or others to answer that question. If you're on LinkedIn, connect with me. I keep putting different road safety, engineering, road design, road auditing, other road safety content out there, as we do on the Safe System Solutions LinkedIn page. So it's worth following Safe System Solutions. We do Safe System Snippets, try to get lots of knowledge out there into industry about some little bits of road safety, road design, and the like. So please do that. I want to thank Loretta for all the hard work actually making things happen here. Lots of admin work, lots of management, lots of prizes that I give out without thinking how they'll actually get there. And so thank you to you and your team for the wonderful work behind the scenes. And I want to thank everyone who has joined us for this. Life is just chaotically busy, and I'm fully aware you've got piles and piles of stuff that you should be getting onto. But to actively say it's unacceptable that this many of our community get killed and seriously injured, and we can, using technical expertise, lessen that. And if there's tools and processes available that are proven to help, I want to learn them, and I will take time to do that. And it's pretty special that people do that. So I want to thank you for doing that. I want to encourage you to do safe system assessments. Promote it, like Loretta said. We've given you some badges and some things. Tell people you can do it. Put your hand up. Add it as an option in project proposals. Make people aware of this process. It adds value. We really want lots of people doing lots of safe system assessments on lots of jobs and lots of eyes on projects and the road network, of people who just have some fundamental understanding of safe system and can inject more safety into projects. So do it. I'll promote you any way I can if you share that with me, and try and assist you. Happy to share any past reports on similar safe system assessments, whatever we can do to help you on your journey as a safe system assessor. Get out there and do lots of them. Let me know, and keep in contact. So thank you, everybody. What a wonderful group. Lots of good discussion. Really, getting into some good questions. Keep in contact. Finish off that assignment. Finish off the quizzes. Get the course done, and get out there and do safe system assessments.
Thanks, Ken. Thanks, everyone. Take care. Bye.
Bye.